He told me that a plan had been hatched to remove me from office.
Today, new claims are shedding light on the dramatic fall of the deputy president, a private meeting, a secret recording, and an impeachment that changed Kenya's political landscape. The former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua now says his removal from office in October 2024 can be traced to a single meeting held in Kisumu on August 28 that year. A meeting he claims was secretly recorded by state agents and later used to accelerate the push to impeach him. The impeachment and removal of Rigathi Gachagua marked one of the most consequential political events in Kenya's history. On October 8, 2024, the National Assembly voted to impeach him. 10 days later, the Senate upheld the charges. He was removed from office. At the time, the country watched as sitting deputy president defended himself in parliament. It was a rare and historical moment, but now, more than a year later, Gachagua is offering a different perspective on how it unfolded. According to him, the turning point was not in parliament. It was in Kisumu, and on August 28, 2024, Gachagua met privately with the late Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament Joanna Ngeno. The meeting took place inside a presidential suite. It was meant to be confidential. Gachagua says he believed the discussion was private, but he now claims that the state agent secretly recorded it. He alleges that once President William Ruto learned that Ngeno was visiting him in Kisumu, the National Intelligence Service was sent to bag the room and capture the conversation. If accurate, the claim suggests high-level political surveillance at a critical moment inside government. The contents of the alleged recording have never been made public. But Gachagua says what was discussed that night was significant. He describes Joanna Ngeno as a close ally, a trusted confidant, and a political partner forged through years of Rift Valley politics, and their relationship, he says, was rooted in shared political struggles and community mobilization.
He told me that a plan had been hatched to remove me from office, because I was also fighting for the interests of my community the way he was fighting for his community. And he told me he was opposed to it, and he felt the president would destabilize his own government, which has happened. And he said he would do whatever he needs to try to persuade him. And immediately the recording was taken to William Ruto. He was summoned, and he was thoroughly intimidated.
According to Gachagua, Ngeno came to Kisumu deeply disturbed. He says the late MP confided that he was facing persecution for defending the rights of Kipsigis, and he also allegedly warned that there was a plan underway to remove the deputy president from office. Gachagua maintains that both he and Ngeno saw themselves as fighting for their respective communities, and this stance had placed them under political pressure. At the time, tensions within the ruling administration were not publicly visible. Earlier, on the same day as the Kisumu meeting, Gachagua toured the Nyanza region alongside President William Ruto. The visit was widely viewed as a strategic move aimed at strengthening ties in opposition strongholds, especially following improved relations between the president and veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga. Publicly, there was no displays, rather there were displays of unity. Privately, according to Gachagua, mistrust was growing. He says that once the alleged recordings were delivered to the president's inner circle, what had been quiet political murmurs began to shift. By July 2024, talk of impeachment had surfaced in some political quarters, but by early October, those discussions were hardened into coordinated parliamentary action. The timeline is clear, and August 28, the Kisumu meeting, August 8, impeachment in the National Assembly, 10 days later confirmation by the Senate. In between, relations between the president and his deputy visibly deteriorated, and Gachagua claims that after the Kisumu meeting, Joanna Ngeno was summoned and intimidated. He does not provide further details, and no official record of such action has been made public. The fallout politically, however, became increasingly visible. During a subsequent tour of Kirinyaga County, the helicopter transporting Gachagua was recalled to Nairobi shortly after landing. The incident raised the eyebrows at the time and fueled speculation of deepening rifts within the executive. Soon after, impeachment proceedings gathered pace. In Parliament, lawmakers debated the charges. The atmosphere was tense. The numbers ultimately favored removal. When Senate upheld the decision, it marked a dramatic rupture of the highest level of government. And for many Kenyans, the impeachment raised difficult questions about power, loyalty, and stability of political alliances. In the days leading up to the vote, Gachagua made a public appeal for reconciliation. Speaking during a church service, he offered an apology to President William Ruto and to members of the public. At the time, some interpreted the gesture as an admission of fault, but Gachagua later clarified that it was not. He said that the apology was meant as an act of humility and reconciliation, not confession of wrongdoing. He maintained that he had not been formally informed of specific misconduct and that could just lead to his removal. In a later interview at his current residence, he reinforced that position. He said no formal accusation had been clearly presented to him by the president directly. He said and described the impeachment as politically engineered. The claims remain contested. That this certain is that the impeachment reshaped Kenya's political landscape. It altered the balance of power within the executive, it redefined alliances within parliament, and it also introduced a new chapter in the relationship between the presidency and deputy presidency. The death of Joan Ngeno has also added another layer to the theory. As a central figure in the alleged Kisumu conversation, his absence leaves key questions unanswered. He cannot confirm or deny the account now being presented. The alleged recordings have never been released. No independent verification has been provided publicly, and yet the narrative has regained debate over surveillance, internal party dynamics, and fragility of the political partnerships. The Kisumu meeting occurred at a delicate political moment. The administration was navigating shifting alliances, engagement in opposition regions were underway, and political realignments were unfolding. Against the backdrop, even a single conversation carried the weight. In Kenya's political system, the deputy president holds significant constitutional authority but remains dependent on political trust within the executive. When that trust fractures, consequences can be swift. The impeachment process itself followed constitutional procedure, and the National Assembly debated and voted. The Senate heard the case and upheld the decision. Institutionally, the process was completed. Politically, however, the scars remain. For supporters of Gachagua, his removal signaled a struggle over representation and internal power balance. For others, it reflected shifting alliances and strategic recalibration within government. And what cannot be disputed is the speed with which events unfolded once momentum gathered. From private meeting in August to removal in October, the timeline was compressed. The alleged secret recording, if it exists, then it sits at the center of Gachagua's account. He argues that the transformation suspicion into action. It is a claim that underscores how fragile political relationships can become when trust erodes. The public has not heard the tapes. There has not been official confirmation of surveillance, but the allegation itself speaks to the intense competition that can define high-level politics. As Kenya looks back into 2024, the impeachment of the deputy president stands as a defining moment. It tested institutions, it tested alliances, and also it tested the limits of political survival. Now, with the new claims emerging, attention turns again in that night of Kisumu, a private room, a confidential discussion, and a chain of events that changed the course of presidency. In politics, power can shift quietly, but sometimes in a single room, on a single night, long before a country ever sees it unfold. That is all for today from Kenya Lens Media, and kindly consider subscribing as a way of supporting us and also helping this platform to grow.